So we're now live on Facebook. Okay. So I think, Nafi, we're going to go over to you to officially open up this webinar.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for those of you joining from different parts of the world. We welcome you to our training session on the UNFPA media campaign under COVID-19. This campaign is organized by the Global Media Campaign to End Female Genital Mutilation and by the UNFPA-UNICEF Joint Programme to eliminate FGM. I would like just to start by reminding people that the UNFPA-UNICEF Joint Programme on the elimination of female genital mutilation is the world's largest global program working on this issue since 2008. One of the key areas of focus for us is advocacy work, and especially at community level, involving community influencers like religious leaders, village chiefs, healthcare workers, police officers, teachers, to transform the norm around female genital mutilation and create change. So this program has been running since 10 years now and is supporting 17 countries until last year, and now we are moving to about 21 countries supported through the program. And the program is mainly working to support legislation, governmental, parliamentarians, and all the stakeholders, legislation, policy, but also strengthen services response, social protection services, health services, legal services. And the most important part for us is, of course, changing the mind of community and working at community level. And through that, of course, we are working with civil society organization at the local level, grassroots organization, and partners like the Global Media Campaign to End FGM. Today, and due to COVID-19, UNFPA has issued some projection that additional 2 million girls are at risk of female genital mutilation by 2030. We will all know that the practice of female genital mutilation is decreasing rapidly in some countries, slowly in other countries. However, we are really supporting the acceleration of the end of FGM by 2030 to have 0 new cases of FGM. This is our goal. And with COVID-19, many of our interventions have been hindered because a lot of our interventions are community-based, community dialogue, value deliberation, but we are adjusting to the current situation and developing some new approaches of work to make sure that we will continue to protect the girls who are in need and empower communities, parents, mother, father, to take a stand against the practice and decide to really keep their daughters without this harmful practice. So we are supporting various media work at a different level over the years in all the countries where the joint program is working. We are supporting media work for a long time, but today we want to share some very practical tips and experience from activists who are connected now and will be able to really show how they're doing that. And we do hope that you will join also this movement, that you will link your work and courageous work at community level to the media to amplify, because we know that we need to amplify the positive norm of keeping the girl intact, of keeping the girl safe, of protecting the girls. So welcome to you, and thank you again to the Global Media Campaign Virtual Media Academy, who have been training for so long so many activists and media in 9 countries in Africa. So thank you, welcome. And Maggie O'Kane, who is the Director of Global Media Campaign, I would like to give you the floor and open the session of today.
Nafi, thank you very much for that. I mean, my name is Maggie O'Kane. I'm the Director of the Global Media Campaign, and we are absolutely delighted to be part of this webinar with NAFI, with the Joint Programme, with UNICEF, because we feel that in times of COVID, it's forced us all to think much more creatively about how we're going to use the media and continue to support the activists that we have been working with, but also more importantly, to invite new young activists who want to use the media, who want to know where to get support, to join us. The key thing about this is a taster. This is to give you a sense of what's out there, what support is out there. And from next week, every week, we'll be running a webinar to say, come and learn about different aspects of working on the media and building on the media work that's already been done in so many countries in the last decade. So in a tragic way, COVID has forced us all to think imaginatively and to seize this opportunity. So we'd like to introduce you to some of the fantastic media campaigners who are already out there, to talk to them, to ask them questions about how they've made progress. And we also want you to know that we will be starting by actually showing you some of the fantastic work that's been done about COVID and fighting FGM in the last 3 months that we hope will inspire people. And then the floor will be over to you. We want questions to come from people to all of the activists, and we want to be really practical and start this virtual media campaign today. So let's start by saying that there will be campaigners coming to us from, like Sadia Hussein from Kenya, Ayobella from Nigeria, Luciane Gande is coming in from Sierra Leone. We have Dr. Wilberforce from Nigeria, who will be answering your questions. But right now, let's just get a taste of the kind of work that's been going on in this short film that we are going to show you now. Thank you.
I could feel the blade cutting. I really thought I was gonna die. They say it's tradition. Which type of tradition?
I am an activist because I was mutilated at the age of 5.
I'm an NFGM campaigner.
I'm a journalist and an activist.
What I go through, I don't want other girls to go through it. This practice must stop.
I campaign for 10 years now. TV, radio, I didn't know how to use them.
I used to knock doors, talking to people, and my work was never recognized. But now I can say I'm very confident. I've amplified my work through social media, Twitter, WhatsApp, Facebook. I've seen a lot of changes in my community since I've begun engaging the religious leaders.
Muslim leaders have been linked to the Islamic religion from female genital mutilation, saying the act is sinful.
The circumcision of women is not allowed in Islam.
Bishop himself has just told us that FGM is not his religion, and that is something that we embrace so much.
I must say it's been a revolutionary journey of discovery for me, as I've learned so much about the media and I've been exposed to the digital world. So far, I've appeared in more than 10 TV stations and radio stations in Nigeria, reaching 150 million people.
global media campaign, we need to know as a community that we can go for this particular season.
Can you hear?
I can hear loud and clear, Sadia. Assalamu alaikum. Our main focus here is to the link, to show how this is not linked with Islam.
Many people are getting the message clearly. Using the media to end FGM is really, really, really very important.
It is working. It is working where people are now changing their perception. This is definitely as a result of the media campaign on the ground. And with sustained media messaging, we will be able to achieve our abandonment goal.
So I really hope you get a sense of what can be achieved by media activists. So you will have seen in that film Sadia Hussein and Ayo Bello, who featured in it. So we're just going to talk to them now while your questions come in about, Sadia, if you can talk to us about how getting on social media and becoming a media campaigner, because you've been campaigning for 15 years now, how using the media changed things for you? I think you need to unmute yourself there. Well, while you're doing that, maybe we could just ask Ayo. Ayo, if you could just explain how the transition to using media changed the way you were campaigning.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ayo from Nigeria. Yes, so using the media has actually helped me because we can't underestimate the power of media in our campaign to end FGM. You know, one of the things I'm very thankful for when it comes to media is visibility. Before I began to use media, I could only reach people within my community, people who knew me. So before media, it was more like I was just a local influencer. But when I started using media, when I started intensifying campaign on social media, and then also getting TV airtime and radio airtime, you know, I became more visible. I was able to reach more people, you know, I was able to gather more direct and indirect impact. So before the use of media, I could reach 100 people. But when I started using the media, I began to reach thousands of people. So that's just one of the basic difference.
And during this time of COVID, you know, how have you been? Have you still been able to work? How have you adapted your work so you can cope with the pandemic?
Okay, concerning the pandemic, we've also been using the media, but in a more strategic way. You know, before, when we want to organize a talk show, we want to go to talk about female genital mutilation, we could come on board with a religious leader, a political office holder, you know, but for the sake of social distancing, when I pay for airtime, I try to ensure it's me and then just one person or maybe two other persons. And then we also leverage on phone calls. So instead of you coming down to the studio, we rather call you online, call you on air to ensure that you also you know, just give your thoughts and share your opinion. So the media has been the solution before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and I believe even after the pandemic, the media would always be a viable tool.
Sadia, if I could move to you now and ask you, what would your advice be to young media campaigners who may be listening to this, who want to stop FGM and are looking to a veteran like you? I think we, yeah, here's
okay. Okay,
welcome.
can you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Sadia Hussein from Kenya, and actually the media has really helped me in a brilliant way because I became an activist in 2008 when I gave birth to my first daughter. But I used to knock doors, as you had my video, and I used to, the maximum of the people I could reach through outreaches was just maximum was 1,000 people, but through media, through the local radios, I could reach thousands of people, and through the mainstream media like TV, I could reach more than 1 million people. And media has really changed the way of my work, because through the feedbacks, through the call-ins, and also through the response, the changes within the community, I have seen the impact the media really has, because we have seen a lot of changes when it comes to the young people, the perception of FGM when it comes to the young men, especially engaging the religious leaders, taking them to the TV or radio, them using, speaking from now, the point of the holy books, and now young people understanding what really FGM and religion is. So to be very honest, media has really changed my work, and it has really impacted when it comes to ending female genital mutilation.
Sadia, if I can just ask you, I mean, let's be very practical. People listening to you, you know, what do you need to get started? Do you need a phone? Do you need WhatsApp? Do you need, just run us through the kind of basic toolkit for somebody who wants to get started.
Okay, what you need is that, first of all, you must have the facts. Second, you must have a phone if you want to use a smartphone. If you want to use WhatsApp or social media, that is Facebook, Twitter, any other social media. And if you want to go to radio, you need to have the airtime for the radio. And that's where now we apply for the direct action grants to be able to facilitate the airtime we need, and also the travel costs. Yes, and what other things you need is now the influencers, people who can follow you to the station, to the radio station or TV station, to add more value and also make the work you are talking about through the TV or radio to be heard by your community, so that they can at least change their perception when it comes to FGM. So the basic tools kindly are your smartphone and the content, the influencers, and that's it, and the facilitation.
So Sadia, one of the things we wanted to do is to actually to go through the basic steps. So we've actually prepared this small animation which you helped us to put together, which is actually hitting the key points for somebody beginning to be a media campaigner. So we're going to take a look at that small animation now. We want it to be inspirational, and we want to say that, you know, this world of media is open to anybody who's passionate about ending FGM. And then afterwards, we'll go through one or two of the points in it with you. So if we could have that.
Five steps to becoming a media campaigner. Step 1. Get a smartphone to connect with other activists and set up a WhatsApp group to make your media plans. Step 2. Agree a list of important people who support your message that you want to get on radio and TV. These are influencers. It could be a religious leader, a doctor, a midwife, a village elder, a chief. They are people the community respects. Step 3. Apply for funding to the global campaign to buy airtime. We call this a direct action media grant. Step 4. Call your local TV and radio stations. Tell them you have funds to get Dr. X or Imam Y on air. Now call the influencers and connect them with the broadcaster. Step 5. As their broadcast message reaches the community, record the transmission on your phone. Finally, share widely on social media. For more help on how to report on the numbers reached by your broadcast, on measuring the impact of your work and carrying out correct financial reporting, go to our Media Academy on Facebook.
Okay, so, okay, so that is a lot of information that we've put out there, but all of these films that you're going to see are going to be available on the website and on our Facebook. But Sadia, Sadia and Ayo, I thought we could just go into one or two points. So the one I wanted to talk to you about, the animation you talk about getting influencers on board. Can you explain why people don't trust campaigners or don't want to hear from women? What's the distrust there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, we are the activists. People think that the community thinks that the perception of the community is that activists are being paid money to go and speak about FGM. So there is this belief of the community that ending FGM is a Western influence on Africans. So for us to be able to get a credit voice, we need to go with a religious leader, because a religious leader directly uses the holy books. So they respect the religious leader, and he has high influence. When it comes to the medical practitioner, the medical person knows the practical effects of FGM, because they deal with the survivors during delivery, or even before delivery, they deal with the victims of FGM. When it comes to now political leader, they are the legislators. They are the people who pass the laws. So, and they have followers, huge mass followers of people. So if these voices are really put on air, then the community will really listen to them compared to a normal activist.
So thank you for that, Sadia. I just want to ask you, I mean, one of the things people don't really understand is that, you know, this is a key issue in lots of communities. It affects lots of women. Why do you need funding to be able to get an editor of a newspaper or an editor of a radio station or to listen to you or to let you get on air? Can you explain how you need some access to funds, and also how to get good value for money?
Okay, so funding is an integral part of sustainability when it comes to advocacy. You need funding to get airtime. There are times where you can be invited to talk about your views or to talk about ending female genital mutilation or your advocacy journey on a TV or radio station. Every TV or radio station has a structure and they have what they want to talk about, be it sports, be it entertainment. So most times when they invite you, when you're not paying, they're just inviting you, you know, to just, they're just using you as an addendum. But once you have funding, you own that 1 hour or 30 minutes. It's yours and your thoughts are independent. Although it's still a patriarchal world, many people do not believe in female genital mutilation. Many people do not see the problem in gender inequality. But when you have funding, you have some influence, you have some authority over the time, and you can actually manage, you know, the conversation in a way where you can gather success stories and you can be sure that you are creating massive awareness. So funding is very important to have sustained, you know, advocacy, because female genital mutilation is not, it's a culture. So we need to keep crusading positive behavioral change. And the only way we can achieve that is if our media engagement is sustained, and it can only be sustained through funding. And it's so interesting that even very little amounts can actually make you reach people. You can get 30 minutes airtime, you can get 1 hour airtime in the local radio with about $100. That's about 35,000 naira. You can also record a jingle for 10,000 naira, 15,000 naira. That's about $40. You know, so we need consistent funding to air our voice to ensure that female genital mutilation becomes history. Funding is very important.
Well, yes, and there's lots of other issues as well, which one of the things we've done is, there's so much information here, is we've set up on Facebook and on our website detailed sort of cheat sheets, information sheets about how you apply for funding, information sheets about how to persuade TV and radio editors to listen to you, or information sheets on how to work on social media or to measure your impact. So just at this point, before we bring in other activists to answer the questions that are coming in, we'd like to just let you know that that information is there on the website. So we're going to give you a little tour of that. So just to reassure everybody that you don't have to learn everything in this hour. So let's do that.
If after listening to this webinar, you want to be a media activist, then you can find all the information we talked about today on our Virtual Media Academy Facebook group and our website. Here's a quick guide. First, head to facebook.com and type in Virtual Media Academy in the search bar here. This is us. Make sure you click Join. Here in the Media section, under Videos, you will see an area with all of today's animated how-to videos. Here in the Albums section, we also have our cheat sheets to help you get started. Here's one, for example, on how to measure your impact. And another one on how to apply for a direct action grant. Here is our cheat sheet on where to find the most reliable and up-to-date information and statistics. And remember to always check your facts before posting. Also in Albums is one called Meet Our Media Campaigners. To pick up the top tips from our graduates working as media campaigners, check out this album. We will be uploading our videos and guides into different languages, so make sure to check your Facebook alerts to see if we posted new material you may find useful. Clicking back through to the discussion section, we know activists are constantly facing new challenges and learning new tactics. We want the discussion feed on the Virtual Media Academy to be a place for you to share tips, ask us and other campaigners questions, and connect with other activists, and share your work. Veteran media activist Io Bello will host live question and answer sessions here in the group, where you can directly ask for feedback on your campaign. Here's a recent interview Io did with Dr. Reverend Wilberforce on his tips for getting religious leaders involved in a media campaign. Also on the discussion board, you can submit questions about applying for grants, financial planning, and measuring your impact. Just ask. As campaigners, your stories and feedback are key. Tell us what is going on in your community. The Virtual Media Academy is also where we will let you know of future courses and how-to webinars coming up. Click Join and connect with your fellow activists fighting to end female genital mutilation. For more information and to find this content on our website, go to globalmediacampaign.org.
So actually we're getting a lot of questions coming in now, particularly on the subject of the religious leaders. So we're going to bring in our other panelists who are going to help us to answer some of these questions. And I just want to introduce them. So there's Lisa Camera, who is one of the first leading media campaigners in the Gambia. She's going to talk about the experience there. Luciane Gandhi, who's not just a media activist, but a media legend in Sierra Leone, and our only man today, Dr. Wilberforce, the Reverend Dr. Wilberforce, who's a religious leader and one of the strongest media campaigners in Nigeria. So Dr. Wilberforce, we'll come back to you later whenever we hear, we get the direction on the religious leaders, but Luciane, a question for you from one media activist here is, how do you deal with backlash if people in your community are angry with you for becoming an FGM media campaigner? What's your advice to a young activist dealing with that?
Thank you very much, Maggie. What I do is take up before in 2006.
I don't think we can hear you, so we're actually going to just do something with your sound. And in the meantime, we'll come back to you, Luciane.
Now?
Yeah, we can hear you much better now. So that question was, what's your advice to a young activist who's receiving threats, who's frightened? How should they use the media?
Yes, I received that kind of backlash in 2008 when some members of the society thought I shouldn't be reporting on FGM because according to them, it is a tradition, it is their culture, so we should not talk about it. And I was busy as a reporter by then reporting on FGM. So I was attacked I had to go back to them, go on here, in fact, so that they could get me clearly and let them know that we operate in a democracy. Everybody has right to his or her opinion. So I was able to convince them to know that it's not because I'm reporting on FGM that I am a bad person. I am not. I am simply just going about doing what I think is the right thing. I did not criticize them. I am presenting the other side of the coin. So I let them know that, oh no, you don't have to attack me for this because it is not, I'm not abusing you. What I'm doing is to let you see the other side of life, that there is life after FGM, or there is life even, you don't need FGM, you can survive without it. Sometimes they throw questions on me when we have programs. They said, okay, well, what do you do? People, the genitalia is always scratching because of the clitoris. I tell them, no. Do you want to tell me we have a certain tribe in our country?
But
they don't go through FGM.
Sorry to interrupt.
Do you want to tell me they are not okay?
Sorry to interrupt you, but in a way, you are a well-known figure. You're a legend in your own country. Everybody knows who Luciane Gande is. But if you're young, if you're thinking about trying to get on the radio, what would be your practical piece of advice to activists now in Sierra Leone who want to get involved in media? And is that the best way to go?
They should not be afraid because we are operating on a democracy. Nobody has the right to do anything to anybody because everybody has rights to his or her opinion. So if I think FGM is not good for me, I have not imposed it on anybody. I am simply just letting people know through the media that this is not good. I am simply just letting people know that there are some health hazards. I am simply just letting people know that there are also social implications. So I am busy just doing my thing. Nobody has the right to attack me. Because we are operating on a democracy. Everybody has rights to his opinion.
I'm just going to stop you there because I just wanted to return to the role of the religious leaders, which is coming up a lot in the questions from people. The question people are asking is, how do you actually persuade? And I'm going to ask this question, if I can, from Dr. Wilberforce, who's in Nigeria, who has been campaigning with religious leaders. How practically do you actually approach a religious leader and try and get him over to your cause, Dr. Wilberforce? You're very welcome. What would be your advice to approaching religious leaders?
As we know, the religious leaders are very, very influential in the society. Many people tend to respect their views. They shape the minds of people. Therefore, they play a lot of significant role when it comes to projects like to end female genital mutilation. So the practical steps that are involved, number one, is to call such people. You can also send letters to them. Then number two is to pay a courtesy call to them by visiting them. And then number three is to present maybe a video or any information booklet where they can see vividly the adverse effects of female genital mutilation. Number four is to now begin to plead with them to bring other priests, clergies to be part of this, journey to make sure that FGM is a history. And then they can use.
Dr. Wilberforce, can I interrupt you? You've been doing that for the last few years in Nigeria.
Yes,
so how hard is it to convince them to come across? How many people, religious leaders, have you got? Have you converted to the cause?
Yeah, in Nigeria here, because of my position as the chairman of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, I have up to 4,000 pastors who are under me. So I've significantly convinced more than 400 of them to understand the need for us to come together and put up our strength to make sure we synergize and end this battle. Where we have some difficulties is always that many people do not understand that female genital mutilation is not even good in the first place. Some of people see it as a traditional and cultural way of people's life, which they don't need to interfere with. So we now take time to educate them to see that they must see it from the point of view that when a girl is caught, her life will never be the same again. And once they understand it, many of them will throw their weight behind.
Okay, and they're prepared to go public on radio and TV and say that?
Exactly, many of them are prepared to do so.
So could I move, Lisa Cameron in the Gambia, you are very interesting on how to sort of tailor make the message for the community. Could you, and you know, when you should broadcast and how you should broadcast, could you help us with that in terms of how you make your campaigning most effective on the media?
Hello everybody from the Gambia. Okay, first of all, as a campaigner, you should know your community. Also knowing your target audience. If you want to target the women, the men, the younger generation, the older generation, find out what time they listen to the radio more, what time they watch TV more, how do they access these media outlets. It is important before you design your program. And also try to check what content is more appropriate in the community where you come from. For instance, in the Gambia, if you were to go to a certain community and show a video from Mali or from Sierra Leone, that is not local content. They would say this is not Gambia, so it's not happening in Gambia. Then your work would just go in vain. Okay, and also if you want to target, for instance, most women cook between the time 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you want to reach certain women, that's the best time to have a program on the radio because they're always listening to music programs or certain panel discussions around that time. If you want to reach women that went to the farm or men that went to the farm, after Maghrib prayers might be the best time to reach them because they're home, they're relaxing before going to bed. Also in Gambia, we have Thursdays and Fridays, we have the preaching or the sermons that happens on most media outlets. It might be good to have your slots around that time. So in a nutshell, it is important to know when your target audience access these media platforms that you will be using.
So we've got a question in here from actually an anonymous attendee that's just come in, and they're asking, you know, in a community where there's no radio and where most people don't use social media, how do you cope with those situations?
In most communities, for instance, in the Gambia, we have the Kanyalings, that's the traditional communicators. Every community has it in Gambia. So in your own community as well as a media activist, look at the local or traditional media platform that has been used. In certain communities, they use the drummers, you know, the griots. Those are the traditional praise singers. So in every community, there is a traditional way of communication. So look at what's available in the community and use that. If there is no radio in a community, for instance, in the Gambia, there is the local traditional communicators. They are a group of people that, you know, uses songs and messaging to send out information to the community. So in your own countries, Kenya, Sierra Leone, wherever you come from, look at in that particular community, what is the traditional way of communication or sending out information and use that.
Luciane, to go back to you, I mean, what do you say to people who are hard to reach, who there's no radio? Do you think actually one of the things that campaigners should be doing, as they do in Ethiopia, is providing radios in small communities? I mean, how important is it that people listen to the radio or the TV? How key is it? Luciane?
Yes, radio is more important here. TV is, but I think radio is more because we have larger areas, larger portion of the country that could not access television stations, so they access radio stations. So what I have started to do, there is a Christian radio station that is strongly against FGM, very, very strongly. So I have started to partner with them so that we could together work and use their medium, because my own medium is national, yes, but to some extent we have some limitations because they will want to tell you, oh no, this is national, we have to respect the people, we have to ensure that we satisfy all sides. So both anti-FGM and pro-FGM are being satisfied. So what I have done, I have got a partnership with a radio called Redeemer Radio Network. It's a very popular radio station, and it's trying to spread to the local areas. It has succeeded in getting over 50% of the population in Sierra Leone. They listen to that radio. So I want to penetrate that radio because I've got a partnership with the pastor there. so that we could together partner and see how we could use his medium to get onto people in the villages. Because what they do as a form of evangelism, they go out to share, to distribute radios to people in the villages. They distribute free radios to them so that they could listen. What they do now, they just buy
sorry to cut across you there,
get
Luciane. I just wanted to ask a question. There's a lot of questions coming in, people asking about radio dramas. I wanted to ask Io there if the feeling was, there's another anonymous attendee who's saying we have heard radio dramas. Is that the way, or should it be on news bulletins? What's your sense? That's a question from Nigeria.
Okay, I think as a media campaigner, there is no harm in being creative, you know, especially when you take advocacy as a full-time job. It is important that you relate with people, you know. People may be bored of you just coming on air to just talk. So it's actually a good idea to come up with radio dramas. It goes a long way, you know, it brings in an entertaining aspect. You know, let's understand that when it comes to female genital mutilation, the perpetrators do not know that they're actually hurting the woman or the baby. Let's understand that female genital mutilation is practiced from an aspect of love. They want their daughters to be marriageable. They don't want them to be promiscuous. So it is important for us to calm down and strategize and come up with creative methods to actually convince these people. So radio drama is not out of place.
So
it's actually a creative
challenge to all the panelists. I mean, one of the difficulties is, as you say, you can't keep telling the same story all the time and talking about FGM and survivors and victims. You know, what is another example you would say that worked well in all of your experience as an alternative to straight campaigning? Innovation. We're looking for innovative ideas on the media. Would anybody like to come in on that? Sadia?
Okay, come again with the question.
So Sadia, I mean, it must be hard day in, day out to get on the radio and say, it's bad for your health, it's not a religious obligation. You know, have you managed to find imaginative ways that have kind of been a bit different, come up with a new approach?
Okay, for us, I'm the coordinator for Dia Women Group. I'm also a survivor of FGM. I've seen some people asking, how can we encourage survivors to speak? I'm a survivor myself, so if that inspires you. What we do, we have songs. We have songs that we sing. And when we go to the radio, for instance, before we even go on live air, they start playing our songs. Secondly, it's not must that every time you go to the radio. What you can do is, once you pay for the airtime, you can invite the person to come and do direct reporting from the village you want to go to. So you are with the community and their voices are being heard on the radio at the same time. That's fantastic because you don't have to pick them to go to the radio. You are coming to visit them at the village, talking to them, let them explore their experience, and now you are getting the same things on the radio. So it's about being creative and see what works for your community. I'm very sure in every country, in every community, there is a unique way of dealing with your community, because my approach might not work for Nigeria, and the approach in Nigeria might not work for people from Kenya or in Somalia. So every community has a unique way of dealing with.
Can we ask, so what is going, after COVID, when this pandemic is past, do you think things will have changed? People will be using the media more? Luciane?
Yes, Maggie, it is possible, and we have seen it evident here that the media has a very powerful way of bringing people together and letting them understand what obtains. So I'm sure even after COVID, we will still continue to robustly use the media, because it's only through the media that you will captivate the minds of people.
Okay, so this is a very hard question for you all, because it's only one question, and the question is, it's coming in from, you know, to say, you know, what if there's one tip you would give an activist who's in Kenya at the moment? One tip, no more than that. What would that one tip be in one sentence from each of you? Ayo.
Okay, so one thing I would advise any media campaigner is to actually own your story. You don't have to be a survivor to campaign against female genital mutilation. And you also, you know, when you're a survivor too, you have to be able to tell your story. And if you're not comfortable telling your story, you can simply just make research. Then understand the language of your target audience. Know how, you know, to engage them. The way you engage the Muslims will be different with the way you engage the Igbos, okay? Considering that Nigerians, we are very religious and we are very traditional, so you have to be careful. I know you have the passion to campaign against female genital mutilation, but you don't just go into the community like they need to listen to you, you know, you have a better knowledge. You have to be considerate.
Be careful, be sensitive. Sadia, what would you say?
Yes, be sensitive.
Okay, for me, I would say, yes, I agree with Ayo. And for you to be a media campaigner, you don't have to be a survivor, yes. But if you are not a survivor, if you are a survivor already, you know what you're talking about. But if you are not a survivor, I would urge the media campaigners to actually make sure that they understand their community. Because for us, the Somali community, we practice type 3 of FGM. Maybe in your community, they practice type 1 of FGM. Before you even go on air, know what your community practices, how they do it. So the messaging is very key, and also the branding. There are certain words, when you go and start speaking on radio or TV, even the survivors will never show up their face. They will just run away because it's like your father stigmatizing them. So before you go on air or before you even go to the radio, make sure that you know your content, you know the facts about your community, you know who your audiences are. Thank you so much.
And Lisa, do you have one piece of advice? Lisa in Gambia? The Gambia. Actually, Lisa, we're having trouble.
One last sentence. One last sentence is, like Sadia and Ayo said, please do not go on misinforming your people. Get your facts right, and also give content. Let's be careful the kind of content we take to our people, because that could totally jeopardize the work that we're doing on the ground.
Maggie, unmute yourself, please.
About children that we haven't seen before, which is how do we bring children in to be involved in campaigning to end FGM, or should we bring children? What would be your view on that, Sadia? With 3 daughters.
Come again.
We have a question here from a listener who wants to know, how do we bring children into being involved in advocacy to end FGM on the media?
Okay. Okay, as we all know, it's not good to expose children, and there are laws protecting the rights of the child. But again, it's up to the consent of the parents to be able to accept whether they want their kids to be on the media or not. So once you have the consent of the parents, you can do it. And again, in my case, yes, I'm a parent to 3 daughters. I'm a survivor of FGM, but my daughters have not been cut. And so I have to use them as role models for other survivors to understand that, yes, we can live with our daughters without being cut. So for me, I have to use them as role models. And I would urge, and we all know that it's the daughter of a survivor who will go through FGM. The daughter of an cut woman can never go through FGM, because the reason is, unless they are married to the practicing community. So that way, we need to really encourage survivors to really share their stories. And
Sadia, speaking about encouraging people, I'm sorry to interrupt, what about encouraging men? Can I ask Dr. Wilberforce, our only man on the panel, how do we bring in more men?
Yeah, it's a very, very wonderful question, because we have a masculine society, especially here in Nigeria. Many people believe that the men are the voice, And that's why it becomes very necessary for men to be part of what we are doing. How do we bring men? Number one is for us to begin to reach out to them, especially the most influential ones in the society. The moment they begin to talk favorably towards the end of female genital mutilation, many other men will likely queue in. There are some men that are occupying very important positions in the society. Some of them are governors, some of them are professors. The moment they begin to speak openly on how to end FGM, there's a tendency that other men will want to join their voice. And I will also encourage a forum where we could just have all men are fair, where men will support the end of female genital mutilation. It will be like, these are the voice of men from this particular segment of the nation.
Okay.
And did this.
Dr. Wilberforce, because again, I think we just need to bring it back to what can we say that now in this time of the pandemic and in COVID is your message? Can we keep campaigning? What's to stop us? How can you encourage people to keep working during COVID? What would you say about that, Lisa? You've been doing a lot of work on the media in the last 3 months.
Yeah, I believe so much in creativity and in.
I'm just moving over to Lisa so we can get a good canter across Africa. So Lisa, can you say what your work on COVID has been in the last couple of months? Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Wilberforce.
Yes, so far we have partnership is important. We've partnered with local organizations and local activists at community level to send out messages on COVID-19. And our message was clear: let's serve as vigilantes in our communities and report cases. We partnered with the Network Against Gender-Based Violence in the Gambia. Since we don't have an emergency number, the network agreed to give us their personal numbers for reporting. So we have 6 nationwide radio stations that played messages on COVID-19 and how to be a vigilante in your communities and the numbers you can report on. We also had the same messages on 6 community radios and 8 panel discussions in those community radios. So partnership is important with the local partners that have that can easily be accessed and also be able to send swift support when the need arises.
Okay, so we have a question coming in about, sorry, we're just missing the question here, about, yes, radio journalists in Nigeria saying we have a network, we're very passionate, but how do we get support to work on these subjects on our network? So it's again the question about financial support, but the question is it possible to just do it on passion alone? You know, you've been working before there were media grants. Is it a combination of both? I asked that to Lisa. Can you get airtime without funding? Is there a way to kind of campaign without dependency on outside grants?
It is very difficult because most media houses are commercial. Even the national ones that the government run, you have to pay for airtime. Even activities that are newsworthy, you have to pay for airtime to have it on the news. So nothing is free. In a country like Gambia, where you have about 2 million people, everybody knows everybody, so you can be lucky to know the head of an institution and they can give you airtime. But that is just temporary, because they're all commercial radio or television stations. Even, like I said, even the nation one, you have to pay for content, even if it's newsworthy. So it's very hard to get free airtime unless if you know the head of the institution. In Gambia, it's easy because it's a small country, but that's only temporary.
Okay, so now I just wanted to, I'm aware that people are sort of asking a lot of different questions about different things that we won't be able to address. I wanted to ask Dr. Wilberforce for your tip, your single tip to campaigners.
Okay, just like the last speaker said, it's difficult, but I so much believe that if you are self-motivated, there is so much you can do without funding in the little space where you can. I believe so much in influencing the influencer. When you influence the influencer, it means that you can make somebody to do something even when the person is not paid, once it is born out of passion. Now, my tip for every activist is for every one of them to become more creative and innovative in approach. We are living in a changing world where so many things are changing. For example, Ayo said that it's no longer a time you can bring a group of people from different places to sit with you and then discuss on a panel. So there's a lot we can do with media, especially social media. If we can do that, we can significantly reduce the practice of female genital mutilation.
Okay, so I'm just going to move now to, thank you very much for that, Dr. Wilberforce. I'm just going to move now to, I'm aware that there's lots of different information. We're moving from one thing to another very quickly, but again, to reassure you that there is a home to go to in terms of sharing information. We want to play a very short film from our Director of Programs, Naima Hassan, who will be your backbone and your support. So this is Naima.
Hi everyone, I'm Naima Hassan. I'm GMC's Program Director, and we've been running media campaigns for the past 7 years. I know firsthand the challenges campaigners face, especially if you're not familiar with how media works. During a pandemic like COVID-19, end-FGM efforts are needed now more than ever. I will be leading GMC's team that will support your work. So here are 5 key takeaways from today's webinar. Number 1, WhatsApp is the most crucial tool to support your work. It allows you to get together with other campaigners and to organize media strategies. Number 2, agree on the list of influencers that you want to broadcast on radio and TV. This varies from country to country. In Somalia, for example, it's religious leaders, whereas in Sierra Leone, it's the paramount chiefs. You decide, you're in charge, you know who your community are listening to, respects and trusts. But you have to check out their credentials because it's not about the message, the messengers are equally important. Number 3, get your facts right. Make sure you have the right information. Be honest. On the Virtual Media Academy Facebook group, you will find cheat sheets, videos, and links from UNFPA and others to support your work. Number 4, use the right channel to communicate your work. Each community responds to messages differently. For remote areas, radios work best, whereas for young people, social media is best. Follow your country-specific guidelines to COVID-19. GMC will be hosting weekly webinars teaching you how to use social media, as well as how to get in touch and engage with broadcasters. Number 5, it's important to know if your work is making a difference. Measure your impact. These cheat sheets will show you how. And if what you're doing isn't working, try a different approach. Contact your fellow campaigners and seek their advice, especially from those working in similar contexts. So join the Facebook group to find out how to apply for direct action grants. We are stronger together. Let's keep the fire burning. Protect our girls in this pandemic and beyond. Thank you.
So I think we would. So I just want to say that I think that the COVID-19 and the pandemic has forced us all to think and to pull together and see what resources we have. And I think what UNFPA and UNICEF have done by sort of forcing us to think and come together on this webinar is to sort of look around and see what all the resources are. And we realize that there's a lot of them out there. So I'd like to ask Harriet from UNICEF, who's with us, who's also been supporting this webinar and the ongoing work with the Virtual Media Academy, to say a few words about where she feels things are going.
Thank you so much. I just want to take the moment to thank everybody who have been able to join. Such a great turnout today. I am actually very inspired listening to all the examples from Gambia, from Nigeria, from Somalia. I am truly inspired by the courage and the amount of work effort that the colleagues, especially those at the community level, are putting in ending female genital mutilation. I agree with you again, Maggie, that COVID, if there is anything that we have learned from this, it has challenged us to innovate and work in another way. It has set us a new normal for campaigning. I definitely note again from the several questions and also the experiences shared by the participants and the speakers, we have a new, group of young people who want to become activists, and we need to tap into this. I recognize that media will amplify us and it will also amplify our work, and this is very important. So after going through this process, each one of us should challenge ourselves. All of us, the 186 people who are here, plus what do we want to do? I like it that we can go to the social, the Facebook page and click to join and get all these resources and become media activists ourselves. So I just want to reiterate again what Nafi said earlier for those who have joined. The joint program remains very committed. UNICEF and UNFPA remain very committed to ensuring that activists have the resources, the information that they need in order to campaign. Thank you all very, very, very much, and I appreciate organizing this meeting, really.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Harriet. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, and there are questions coming in. For example, we've got questions about how we protect survivors who want to be anonymous, how to make a contribution, how can I learn to be more creative. So it's exactly for that reason that we recognize that there's so much to share, that we have to get right down to business after this virtual media campaign webinar. Now that COVID has focused us and made us create these resources, we are getting down to business next Thursday, same time, same place. That's Thursday, the 4th of June, where we will be having the next webinar, and we will be looking by popular demand, because people are very interested in radio, how to get on radio, how to negotiate prices on radio. So that will be the first webinar, same time, same place, next Thursday, and we will continue every week, and we will respond to your questions. If you want to have questions on how to get funding, if you want to have questions on how to work on a WhatsApp group, then we're here for you. So we are really honored. We are really grateful to the Joint Programme for making this happen in this sad time of the pandemic. And we look forward to seeing as many of you as possible next Thursday, and so we can end this together. So thank you very, very much to everyone for taking part. Thank you.